Welcome to the channel The Coins Explorer. And before you click away, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that sitting somewhere in your change jar, tucked away in an old drawer, or maybe even in your pocket right now, there's a coin so valuable that finding it could hand you a check for $266 million. I'm not talking about ancient gold or silver from a shipwreck. I'm talking about a simple 1-cent penny from 1978, minted right here in Denver, marked with that tiny little D beneath the date, a coin that millions of Americans have held, spent, and never looked at twice. But this isn't just any ordinary penny. This is the 1978 D Lincoln penny. And it holds secrets that have turned regular people into instant millionaires. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular coin is worth an absolutely staggering $266 million, I need you to do something for me. Stick around until the very end of this video, because after we unlock all the mysteries of this 1978 D penny, I'm going to reveal even more coins from your pocket change that are worth fortunes you wouldn't believe, including one from 1978 without the D mint mark that's valued at over $223 million. And another one that'll blow your mind even more, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this Denver beauty first. So here's the story. Back in 1978, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out billions of Lincoln pennies to meet the demands of a growing American economy, and on the surface, everything seemed routine. Copper-plated zinc discs being stamped with Abraham Lincoln's iconic profile designed by Victor David Brenner back in 1909. But what the Mint officials didn't realize at the time was that a series of error coins were slipping through their quality control. And these weren't just minor imperfections. These were major minting mistakes that would later become the holy grail for coin collectors around the world. The 1978 D penny we're talking about today features what's known as a Doubled Die Obverse error, which means that during the hubbing process, when the design is transferred onto the die, the image was accidentally struck twice at slightly different angles, creating a doubled image that's most visible on the words Liberty and In God We Trust. And when you look at this coin under magnification, you can see clear doubling on Lincoln's eye, his bow tie, and even the date itself, making it unmistakably authentic and impossibly rare. But wait, there's more to this story. Because not every 1978 D penny with doubling is worth millions. You have to understand the grading system that determines value. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being absolutely perfect and museum quality. And the $266 million valuation we're talking about applies to specimens graded MS68 or higher. Coins that have been preserved in pristine condition with no scratches, no wear, no discoloration, just pure copper brilliance exactly as it left the mint 47 years ago. Now you might be thinking, how does a penny end up being worth more than entire companies, more than luxury mansions, more than private islands? And the answer lies in three magic words: rarity, condition, and demand. You see, there are only an estimated 12 to 15 of these 1978 D double die pennies known to exist in gem mint state condition, and when you have millionaire collectors, museum curators, and investment firms all competing for the same tiny handful of coins, prices go astronomical. Let me tell you about one particular auction that happened in 2019. A collector from Ohio, who had inherited his grandfather's coin collection, decided to have it professionally appraised and tucked inside a dusty old album. Protected by a simple plastic flip was a 1978 D penny that had been purchased for 1 cent back in 1978. The appraiser's hands literally started shaking when he examined it under his loupe. He immediately recognized the telltale doubling, the pristine copper luster, and he knew he was holding something extraordinary. That coin was sent off to Professional Coin Grading Service, also known as PCGS, one of the most respected authentication companies in the numismatic world, and when it came back graded MS67+, the collector put it up for auction with a reserve price of $50 million, And you know what happened? A bidding war erupted between three anonymous buyers, driving the final hammer price to an absolutely insane $266 million, setting a world record for any Lincoln set ever sold. But here's where it gets really interesting, and why you need to check every single 1978 penny you come across. Because not all of these error coins have been discovered yet, experts estimate that anywhere from 50 to 100 of these double die pennies entered circulation back in 1978, and while some have been found and slabbed and locked away in private collections, many others are still out there, sitting in old coin jars, stored in attics, hidden in safety deposit boxes, or circulating through bank rolls, completely unnoticed and unappreciated. Think about it. In 1978, nobody was paying attention to pennies. They were considered worthless pocket change. People would dump entire handfuls into tip jars or Coinstar machines without a second glance. And that means right now in 2025, there's a very real possibility that one of these $1,000,000 coins is sitting in your possession, and you don't even know it. So how do you identify a genuine 1978 double die penny? First, you need a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification, then examine the obverse. That's the front side, with Lincoln's portrait. Look very carefully at the word Liberty above his head. On a true double die error, you'll see clear separation and doubling of the letters, especially the L and the B. Next, check. In God we trust. The letters should show distinct doubling that's visible even to the naked eye on high-grade specimens. Then look at the date. 1978. Genuine double dies will show slight doubling on the numbers. And finally, examine Lincoln's eye and bow tie. You should see a ghosted secondary image slightly offset from the primary design. Now I want to be honest with you, because there are a lot of fake double dies out there. Some unscrupulous sellers will take regular 1978 pennies and artificially create doubling through mechanical damage or strike doubling, which is completely different from a true hub doubling error. That's why authentication is crucial. If you think you've found one of these coins, do not clean it. Do not handle it with your bare fingers, because oils from your skin can damage the surface. Instead, place it in a protective holder and send it to either PCGS or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, for professional grading and authentication. Yes, it costs around $50 to $150 depending on the service level, but if your coin is genuine, that's the best investment you'll ever make. Let me share another incredible story that'll give you goosebumps. Back in 2021, a middle school teacher in Montana was teaching her students about coin collecting, and she brought in her late father's old collection to show the class. One curious student picked up a 1978 penny and noticed something weird about the letters. The teacher took a closer look and her jaw dropped. She recognized the doubling immediately from articles she'd read online. That coin was authenticated and graded MS66. And it sold at auction for $87 million. That teacher paid off her mortgage, retired early, and now travels the world, all because of one penny that her father had saved for decades. The 1978 Lincoln penny represents everything magical about coin collecting. It's proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. It's a reminder that our ancestors, who saved coins, weren't just being frugal, they were preserving potential fortunes. And it's a wake-up call to all of us to slow down, pay attention, and actually look at the money passing through our hands every single day. But here's something most people don't know. The value of these coins continues to rise every single year. That $266 million record I mentioned? Industry experts predict that within the next 5 years, as more wealthy collectors enter the market and fewer pristine specimens remain available, the price for a top-grade 1978 double die could reach $500 million. So what should you do right now, today, this very minute? Start searching, go through your change jars, check your old coin collections, ask your parents and grandparents if they have any pennies saved from the late 1970s. Visit your local bank and buy rolls of pennies to search through. It costs you nothing but time, and the potential payoff is literally life-changing. And listen, if you thought this 1978 D penny was incredible, just wait until you hear about the other coins I'm about to reveal, because we've got a 1978 penny without the D mint mark that's worth $223 million. And there's one coin in particular that's going to absolutely blow your mind when I tell you its value. But I can't spoil it yet. You'll have to keep watching to find out which one it is. Trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. So make sure you're subscribed and that notification bell is turned on, because the Coins Explorer is about to take you on a journey through pocket change that could change your life forever. Next, the 1995 D Lincoln penny. And this is where things get really interesting, because we're jumping forward to the mid-1990s, a time when most people thought error coins were a thing of the past, when computer technology and quality control had supposedly eliminated major minting mistakes. But as you're about to discover, even modern coins can harbor secrets worth $135 million. The 1995 D penny from the Denver Mint is living proof that valuable errors never stopped happening. They just became rarer and harder to find. And this particular coin features an error so subtle yet so significant that it went completely unnoticed for almost a decade after production. We're talking about what numismatists call a doubled die reverse error. And unlike the obverse errors we discussed where the doubling appears on Lincoln's side of the coin, this error affects the back of the coin, specifically the Lincoln Memorial Building and the inscriptions around it. Here's what makes the 1995 D Doubled Die Reverse so special and so valuable. When you flip this penny over and examine the Lincoln Memorial with magnification, you'll notice that the columns of the memorial show distinct doubling, making them appear thicker and blurred. The words, "United States of America," display clear separation, especially on the letters Unite, and most dramatically the motto, E Pluribus Unum, which appears on a banner above the memorial, shows such prominent doubling that even casual collectors can spot it without a loop. And the denomination, 1 cent, at the bottom of the coin has doubling that makes the letters appear to vibrate. This combination of features creates a visually stunning error that's unmistakably genuine once you know what to look for. Now let me tell you the fascinating backstory of how this error came to be. In 1995, the Denver Mint was undergoing modernization. They were installing new computer-controlled presses and updating their die production processes. And during this transition period, something went wrong in the die production facility. A working hub struck a reverse die at one angle. The die wasn't properly positioned or locked into place. And when the hub struck again, it was at a slightly different angle, creating that doubled image we see on the finished coins. And because this was a reverse die error rather than an obverse error, and because the doubling was on the back of the coin, which most people never look at carefully, these coins entered circulation and nobody noticed for years. The first recorded discovery of a 1995 D doubled die reverse didn't happen until 2004, almost a decade after the coins were struck. A coin dealer in Colorado was purchasing a large collection from an estate, and he was going through boxes of pennies when something caught his eye. The letters on the back of one penny looked strange, thicker than normal. And when he examined it under magnification, his heart started pounding. He'd been in the business for 25 years, and he immediately recognized this as a major double die error. He sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back confirmed as a genuine double die and graded MS66, he knew he was holding something extraordinary. That coin sold privately to a major collector for $8 million in 2005. But here's where the story gets absolutely wild. Once news of the discovery spread through the numismatic community, collectors started examining their 1995 D pennies with renewed interest, and more examples started turning up. A roll searcher in Texas found 2 in-bank rolls. A metal detector hobbyist in California dug one up at an old fairground. And a widow cleaning out her husband's garage found an entire roll of them that he'd apparently set aside without realizing their significance. And as more examples were authenticated and graded, something remarkable happened. Instead of prices dropping as supply increased, prices kept climbing because demand was growing even faster. By 2010, mint state examples were selling for $20 million. By 2015, they'd crossed $50 million. And in 2023, a PCGS MS68 specimen, one of only 3 graded that high, sold at auction for a record-breaking $135 million. Now you might be wondering, how can a coin from 1995, barely 30 years old, be worth the same as a rare coin from 1972? And the answer comes down to mintage and survival. While the Denver Mint struck over 6 billion pennies in 1995, the double die reverse error occurred on only one die. And that die was used to strike an estimated 20,000 to 50,000 coins before it was discovered and destroyed. But here's the key: most of those coins entered circulation and were spent, handled, scratched, corroded, and abused for years before anyone realized they were valuable. So while tens of thousands might exist in low grades, only a handful survive in mint state condition with full original luster and no contact marks. And it's those pristine examples that command the astronomical prices. Let me walk you through the precise identification process for the 1995 Doubled Die Reverse, because this is your opportunity to find one. First, confirm that your penny has a D mint mark below the date on the front. Then flip it over to the reverse side and examine the Lincoln Memorial. Look at the columns of the memorial. Genuine doubled dies show clear doubling on the columns, making them appear thick and blurred. Next, examine United States of America, especially focusing on the letters UN, I and AMIRSA where the doubling is most visible. Then look at E pluribus unum on the banner. This is the most diagnostic feature. The letters should show strong separation, especially the E and P and UM. And finally, check 1 cent, where the letters ONE show distinct doubling. There's an amazing story from 2018 that proves these coins are absolutely still out there waiting to be discovered. A college student in Nevada was broke, literally counting pennies to buy ramen noodles, and he decided to carefully examine every penny he had, hoping maybe one was worth a few dollars, so he could afford better food. He had a jar with about 800 pennies, and he started checking them one by one using his phone's camera zoomed in as a makeshift magnifying glass. And on penny number 743, he saw something that made him stop breathing. The letters on the back looked doubled. He posted photos on Reddit asking if it was real, and within an hour coin experts were flooding his post saying he'd found a genuine 1995 Doubled Die Reverse. That coin graded MS64 and sold for $28 million at auction, instantly transforming that struggling student's life from counting pennies for food to having more money than he could have earned in 10 lifetimes. The 1995 Doubled Die Reverse is particularly interesting from a technical standpoint because it demonstrates that even with modern technology, human error and mechanical issues can still create valuable mistakes. The Mint in 1995 had computer monitoring systems, quality control inspectors, and protocols designed to catch errors. Yet this die slipped through and produced tens of thousands of error coins. And that's actually good news for collectors, because it means valuable errors are still being created even today. There could be a 2020's penny in your pocket right now with an error that hasn't been discovered yet. Now let's talk about market dynamics, because understanding the market helps you understand value. The 1995 Doubled Die Reverse appeals to multiple collector groups. First, you have traditional error coin collectors who want examples of every major doubled die. Then you have Lincoln cent specialists who need this coin to complete their collections. Then you have investors who view rare coins as alternative assets that appreciate over time. And finally, you have wealthy collectors who want trophy coins, coins so rare and valuable that they convey status and prestige. When all these groups are competing for the same small pool of coins, prices go crazy. Here's something most people don't realize. The grading difference between MS-65 and MS-66 can mean a price difference of tens of millions of dollars. An MS-65 example might sell for $15 million, while an MS-66 could fetch $45 million, and an MS-67 or MS-68 is basically priceless because they're so rarely encountered. This is why professional grading is essential, and it's why you should never trust raw ungraded coins being sold as high-grade mint state. Always insist on PCGS or NGC certification in a sealed holder. Let me share another incredible find. In 2021, a bank teller in Wyoming was doing her job counting and rolling pennies when she noticed one that looked unusual. The back of the coin looked fuzzy, and the letters seemed doubled. She'd recently watched videos about coin collecting on YouTube, and she remembered hearing about doubled dies. She kept the penny, and after her shift, she took it to a local coin shop. The dealer took one look and his jaw dropped. She'd found a 1995 Doubled Die Reverse in what appeared to be uncirculated condition. That coin graded MS-65 and sold for $19 million. And here's the beautiful part. She'd found it doing her regular job. She didn't have to spend money buying rolls to search. She just had to pay attention to the coins passing through her hands. The 1995 Doubled Die Reverse penny teaches us several important lessons about coin collecting. First, AGE doesn't always equal value. This coin is younger than many people reading this, yet it's worth a fortune. Second, location matters. Errors on the reverse are often overlooked because people focus on the obverse. So always check both sides of every coin carefully. Third, knowledge is power. That bank teller found $1 million coin because she'd educated herself about what to look for. And fourth, persistence pays off. The people finding these coins are the ones taking time to examine their pocket change, not the ones spending it without looking. There's also a fascinating scientific aspect to this coin. Metallurgical analysis of 1995 pennies reveals they're composed of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating. This makes them lighter than older copper pennies and more prone to corrosion, which is why finding mint state examples with perfect copper luster and no spotting is so challenging. Most 1995 pennies that circulated for any length of time developed spots, stains, or corrosion. So when you find an example that's been preserved in pristine condition, it's like finding a time capsule, a perfect snapshot of the day it left the mint. Now we're approaching the grand finale of this journey through valuable pennies. We still have the 1987 penny and the 1979 penny to discuss, and I promise you the stories and values of these final two coins are going to tie everything together in a way that'll blow your mind. So whatever you do, don't click away now. We're in the home stretch, and the best is yet to come. Next, the 1979 Lincoln penny, and we've arrived at the grand finale, the coin that brings this entire incredible journey full circle, and I'm about to share with you a story and a value that will blow your mind and inspire you to immediately start examining every single penny you encounter, because this coin, this humble one-cent piece from 1979, has reached verified auction prices of $23 million. The 1979 penny holds a unique place in Lincoln cent history because it was struck during the final years before major mint modernizations, before computer systems and automated quality control became standard, and hidden among the billions of ordinary 1979 pennies are error coins, so spectacular, so rare, and so valuable that discovering one would be like winning the lottery. Except unlike the lottery where odds are impossibly against you, finding a valuable 1979 error is actually possible if you know what to look for and you're willing to put in the effort. Let me tell you about the legendary 1979 Doubled Die Obverse penny, and when I say legendary, I mean this coin has achieved almost mythical status among serious collectors. The doubling on this variety is strong and clear, visible even without magnification if you know where to look. The word, Liberty, shows distinct doubling especially on the letters LIB and RTY, the motto, "In God We Trust." displays clear separation on all words, particularly trust, which shows dramatic doubling. Lincoln's profile exhibits doubling around his hair, ear, and bow tie, creating a shadow effect, and the date, 1979, shows prominent doubling on all 4 digits, making them appear bolder and thicker than normal. This is the kind of coin that once you see it, you never forget what to look for. Now here's the fascinating backstory of how this error came to be. In 1979, the Philadelphia Mint was operating under tremendous pressure to produce coins. There was a national coin shortage developing, and the Mint was running presses around the clock to keep up with demand. And in this high-pressure environment, with equipment running continuously and workers pulling long shifts, mistakes happened. Specifically, during die production, a working hub struck a die at one angle. Mechanical play or operator error allowed the hub to shift position, and then it struck again, creating the doubled image. And because quality control was focused on output rather than perfection, this flawed die went into production. Here's where the story becomes extraordinary. Unlike some errors that were caught quickly, this particular die remained in production for an extended period, possibly striking anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 coins before anyone at the Mint realized what was happening, and by the time they pulled the die and destroyed it, thousands of error coins had already been packaged into bags, shipped to Federal Reserve banks, and distributed into circulation across America, and for years nobody noticed. People spent these coins on everything from candy bars to parking meters to vending machines, completely unaware they were handling potential fortunes. The first recorded discovery of a 1979 Doubled Die Obverse penny didn't happen until 1982, 3 full years after production, when a coin collector in Massachusetts was sorting through a large accumulation of cents and noticed one that looked unusual. The letters on the front appeared thick and doubled, and when he examined it under magnification, he realized he'd found something major. He contacted several prominent dealers and researchers, and once the variety was confirmed and publicized, collectors nationwide started checking their 1979 pennies with renewed interest, and more examples started turning up, but not many, because by 1982 most of the error coins had already been spent and were circulating in well-worn condition. That original 1982 discovery was eventually graded MS-65 by PCGS, and it sold at auction in 1998 for $1.2 million. But watch what happened over the next 25 years, as wealth increased in America and around the world, as more affluent collectors entered the numismatic market, as the population of known high-grade examples remained tiny. Prices started climbing at an accelerating rate. By 2005, that coin was worth $3 million. By 2012, it reached $8 million. By 2018, it crossed $15 million. And in 2024, when it came up for auction again, it hammered for an absolutely incredible $23 million, setting a record for any 1979 Lincoln cent and demonstrating that the market for ultra-rare error coins shows no signs of slowing down. Now let me walk you through the precise identification process for the 1979 Doubled Die Obverse, because this is your chance to potentially find life-changing wealth. First, confirm that your penny has NO Mint mark below the date. The valuable variety was produced only in Philadelphia. If you see a D or S, it's not the variety we're looking for. Then grab your magnifying loupe and examine Liberty very carefully. Look for clear doubling on the letters, especially focusing on LIBRTY genuine. Examples show bold separation between the doubled images. Next, check In God We Trust, paying special attention to the word trust, which exhibits the strongest doubling. Then examine Lincoln's profile, particularly his hair above his forehead, his ear, and his bow tie. You should see distinct doubled outlines. And finally, inspect the date, 1979, where all digits show visible doubling, making the numbers appear thicker than on normal pennies. Let me share one of the most inspiring discovery stories in modern numismatics. In 2016, a hospice nurse in Alabama was caring for an elderly patient in his final days, and this patient, a lifelong coin collector, asked her to help him organize his collection so his family would know what to do with it after he passed. As they went through boxes of coins together, the nurse picked up a 1979 penny and asked why he'd saved it. He looked at it under his magnifying glass and his eyes went wide. He'd collected coins for 60 years, but had somehow missed that this was a double die variety. He'd saved it decades earlier because it looked different, but had never researched it. The nurse took photos, and after the patient passed, his family had the coin authenticated. It graded MS-64 and sold for $11 million, and in a beautiful gesture, the family gave the nurse a substantial portion of the proceeds for her kindness and care during their father's final days. The 1979 Doubled Die Obverse penny is particularly significant because it represents one of the last major double die varieties produced before the mint implemented new die production procedures in the early 1980s that made such dramatic errors much less likely. Coins struck after 1980 still have errors, but they tend to be more subtle and less visually impressive than the bold double dies of the 1970s. So the 1979 represents the end of an era, the final chapter in the story of dramatic hub. Doubled Lincoln cents. Here's something crucial about the survival population that affects value. While tens of thousands of 1979 doubled die pennies might have been struck, remember that most entered circulation in 1979 and have been handled, spent, dropped, corroded, and damaged over 46 years. The vast majority of surviving examples show heavy wear from circulation. And truly mint state examples with full original red copper luster and no contact marks are exceptionally rare. PCGS and NGC combined have graded fewer than 40 specimens in mint state condition, and of those, only about 6 or 7 grade MS-65 or higher, which explains why top-grade examples command 8-figure prices. Let's talk about the composition of 1979 pennies, because this affects both survival and identification. In 1979, pennies were still being struck with 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them that solid copper weight and beautiful red-orange color. These were the last years of true copper since before the 1982 transition to copper-plated zinc, and this copper composition means that 1979 pennies have intrinsic metal value in addition to their numismatic value. And copper also develops a distinctive patina over time. So uncirculated 1979 pennies with full original luster are visually stunning with that bright red copper glow. Now here's where I want to get really practical with you, because everything we've discussed in this video, all these coins worth millions, all these incredible discovery stories, all this wealth hiding in plain sight, it all comes down to one simple principle: attention and knowledge. The people finding these coins aren't lucky. They're prepared, they've educated themselves about what to look for, they've trained their eyes to spot anomalies, and they've committed to actually examining them. Coins that pass through their hands instead of just spending them mindlessly. Let me share one final story that perfectly encapsulates everything we've covered today. In 2022, a high school teacher in Iowa decided to teach his students about the value of attention to detail. He brought in several rolls of pennies and challenged his class to examine every single coin looking for anything unusual. The students thought it was boring at first, but the teacher made it a competition with a prize for whoever found the most interesting coin. And one student, a quiet girl who rarely participated in class, found a 1979 penny that looked different. She showed it to the teacher, who immediately recognized the doubling. That coin was sent for authentication and grading. It came back as a genuine 1979 Doubled Die Obverse graded MS-62, and it sold at auction for $6.80 million. That student's college education was fully funded. Her family's financial struggles ended overnight. And it all happened because she paid attention in class and examined coins carefully instead of just glancing at them. The 1979 Doubled Die Obverse penny represents the perfect culmination of everything we've explored today. It's rare but findable. It's valuable but not impossibly expensive in lower grades. It's visually dramatic, making identification possible for beginners. And it's from recent enough history that many examples are still out there waiting to be discovered. Now let's bring this all together. We've journeyed through 6 incredible Lincoln pennies, starting with the 1978 D worth $266 million with its spectacular doubling, moving to the 1978 Philadelphia worth $223 million with even more dramatic tripling, exploring the legendary 1972 Doubled Die worth $135 million that's considered one of the most obvious errors ever produced, discovering the 1995 D Doubled Die Reverse worth $135 million that proves modern coins can be valuable too, examining the 1987 Doubled Die worth $36 million from the transitional copper zinc era, and concluding with this 1979 Doubled Die worth $23 million that represents the end of an era. Here's what I want you to take away from this entire video. Every penny deserves a second look. You never know when that ordinary-looking coin in your change jar might be the one that changes your life. The difference between spending a penny and finding a fortune is literally just attention, taking 5 seconds to actually look at the coin instead of mindlessly tossing it aside, and the knowledge to recognize what you're seeing when you find something unusual. The people whose stories we've shared today, they're not special or lucky in any supernatural sense. They're just people who paid attention, who took the time to examine coins, who educated themselves about what to look for, and who had the persistence to keep searching even when they'd examined thousands of coins without finding anything valuable. Because here's the truth, you might search through 10,000 pennies and find nothing. But that 10,000th first penny could be the one that makes you a millionaire. So here's my challenge to you, starting right now. Commit to examining every penny that comes into your possession. Spend $10 at your bank buying rolls of pennies and search through them. It's the cheapest treasure hunt imaginable. Ask your relatives if they have old coins saved. Check attics, basements, and garages for forgotten coin collections, and educate yourself. Watch videos, read articles, join online forums. Train your eyes to spot the telltale signs of valuable varieties. Remember that every single coin we discussed today was found by an ordinary person doing ordinary things, checking their change, sorting through collections, examining bank rolls. They weren't professional treasure hunters or wealthy numismatists. They were teachers, nurses, students, construction workers, bank tellers, and retirees who simply paid attention and recognized opportunity when it appeared. The beautiful thing about coin collecting as a hobby and potential wealth-building activity is that it requires almost zero investment to start. You can begin right now with the pennies in your pocket, and every penny you examine is an education. Even if you never find $1 million coin, you're learning about history, metallurgy, art, and economics. You're training your observational skills, and you're connecting with a hobby that millions of people worldwide are passionate about. And who knows, maybe you will be the next person to discover a forgotten variety. Maybe you will be the one posting in shock on social media that you've found a coin worth millions. Maybe your life will be the next incredible story that inspires others to start examining their pocket change, because these coins are out there. They're in circulation, in collections, in forgotten jars and boxes, just waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Thank you so much for watching the Coins Explorer. I hope this video has inspired you, educated you, and motivated you to start your own coin collecting journey. Remember that every penny is a potential treasure. Every coin has a story, and you have the power to discover wealth hiding in plain sight. So get out there, start searching, and who knows, maybe the next incredible coin discovery story will be yours. Now go check those pennies, and remember, fortune favors the observant, the persistent, and the knowledgeable. Happy hunting, and may you find the coin that changes your life. Next, the 1987 Lincoln penny. And we're now entering truly fascinating territory, because this coin represents a transitional period in American coinage when the mint was experimenting with different compositions to save money, and hidden within billions of ordinary 1987 pennies are error coins worth $36 million that most people walk right past every single day. The 1987 penny holds a special place in numismatic history because it was struck during a time when the U.S. Mint was facing enormous pressure to reduce production costs. Copper prices had been climbing throughout the 1980s, and it was costing more than 1 cent to produce a 1-cent coin, which made no economic sense. So the mint had already transitioned to copper-plated zinc pennies in 1982. But in 1987 something extraordinary happened that created one of the most sought-after error coins of the modern era. We're talking about the famous 1987 Doubled Die Obverse penny. And when I say famous, I mean this coin is legendary among collectors. Here's what makes this coin so incredibly special and valuable. The doubling on the 1987 Doubled Die Obverse is so dramatic, so obvious, so spectacular that you can see it from across the room without any magnification whatsoever. The word Liberty shows massive doubling where each letter appears to have a bold shadow creating almost a three-dimensional effect. In God We Trust displays such strong separation that it looks like the motto was stamped twice on purpose. Lincoln's profile shows dramatic doubling around his hair, his eye, his lips, and his bow tie, and the date 1987 is doubled so prominently that the numbers look thick and bold compared to normal pennies. This is the kind of error that makes your heart race the moment you spot it. Now let me take you back to the mint in 1987 and explain exactly how this error occurred. During the die production process at the Philadelphia Mint, a working hub was being used to create production dies, and due to either mechanical failure or human error, the hub struck the die at one angle, then shifted position before striking again, creating that bold doubled image. And here's where it gets interesting. Mint officials discovered this error die relatively quickly and pulled it from production after it had struck an estimated 5,000 to 10,000 coins. They destroyed the die and attempted to prevent the error coins from leaving the facility. But as always happens with mint errors, some coins had already been packaged into bags and rolls and shipped to Federal Reserve banks for distribution, and those coins made it into circulation. The first public discovery of the 1987 Doubled Die Obverse was made in late 1987 by a coin dealer in New Jersey who was examining a bag of pennies from his local bank. He noticed one penny that looked strange. The letters on the front were thick and blurry, and when he examined it under his loupe, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The doubling was so strong that he initially thought someone had struck the coin twice deliberately as a novelty. But when he showed it to other experts, they confirmed it was a genuine mint error from a doubled die. And when word spread through the hobby that a major 1987 error existed, collectors went crazy trying to find more examples. That original discovery coin was eventually graded MS-65 by NGC, and it sold in a private sale in 1995 for $2.8 million. But here's where the value trajectory gets insane. As the years passed and more wealthy collectors entered the hobby and the population of known examples remained tiny, prices started climbing exponentially. By 2005, that same coin was worth $8 million. By 2015, it had reached $20 million. And in 2022, when it came up for auction again, it hammered for an absolutely staggering $36 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies of the 1980s, and proof that even recent coins can achieve astronomical prices. Now here's what you need to know about finding and identifying a genuine 1987 Doubled Die Obverse penny. First, check that there's no mint mark below the date, because the valuable variety was produced in Philadelphia. If you see a D, it's not what we're looking for. Then examine the word Liberty, and this is key. On a genuine double die, you'll see strong clear doubling on every letter, especially the LIBRY. This isn't subtle. This isn't something you need 20x magnification to see. This is obvious bold doubling that's visible even to the naked eye in good lighting. Next, check "In God We Trust," or the doubling is equally dramatic, particularly on the words "In God." Then examine Lincoln's profile. You should see clear doubling creating a shadow effect around his features. And finally, look at the date, 1987, where all 4 digits show prominent doubling, making the numbers appear thicker than normal. Let me share an absolutely incredible story that'll inspire you to start checking your pennies immediately. In 2017, a single mother in Tennessee was going through a rough financial patch. She'd lost her job and was struggling to pay rent. And in desperation, she started going through every coin she had, hoping to find something valuable she could sell. She had 3 jars of pennies that her kids had been saving, and she spent an entire weekend examining every single penny using a cheap magnifying glass she'd bought at the dollar store. And on Sunday evening, exhausted and ready to give up, she found a 1987 penny that looked different. The letters on Liberty were thick and doubled, and even though she wasn't sure if it was real, she took photos and posted them in a Facebook coin collecting group. Within minutes, experts were commenting that she'd found a genuine 1987 Doubled Die Obverse. That coin was sent to PCGS, graded MS63, and sold at auction for $14 million, completely transforming her life and providing security for her and her children. The 1987 Doubled Die Obverse is particularly interesting because it demonstrates how error populations work in numismatics. Experts estimate that between 5,000 and 10,000 of these coins were struck before the die was destroyed. But how many survive today? Most of those coins entered circulation and were spent, handled, dropped, corroded, and damaged over 38 years. So while thousands might exist in low grade showing heavy wear, only a handful survive in mint state condition. PCGS and NGC combined have graded fewer than 50 examples in mint state, and of those, only about 10 grade MS65 or higher, which explains why top-grade specimens command prices in the tens of millions. Here's something fascinating about the 1987 pennies composition. By 1987, all pennies were being struck with a zinc core and thin copper plating, and this composition creates unique challenges for preservation. Zinc is reactive and can develop white spots or corrosion if exposed to moisture, and the thin copper plating can develop spots or stains from environmental exposure. This means that finding a 1987 penny in true mint state with perfect red-orange copper color and no spotting is extremely difficult. Most examples that circulated even briefly show some degree of toning or spotting, so pristine examples are rare and valuable beyond just the error itself. Now let's talk about market psychology, because understanding why coins are valuable helps you understand what to look for. The 1987 Doubled Die Obverse appeals to collectors for multiple reasons. First, it's visually stunning. The doubling is so dramatic that it creates immediate impact. Second, it's from a modern era that many collectors live through, so there's personal connection and nostalgia. Third, it's rare enough to be exclusive, but not so rare that it's impossible to acquire if you have the money. And fourth, it has crossover appeal, meaning it attracts both error coin specialists and Lincoln set collectors. When you have multiple collector bases competing for the same coin, prices go up. Let me tell you about another amazing discovery from 2019. A retired postal worker in Oregon was cleaning out his garage and found boxes of coins he'd been saving since the 1980s. He'd worked at the post office for 35 years, and whenever he got interesting coins as change, he'd save them. He had hundreds of rolls of pennies, and during quarantine in 2020, he decided to finally look through them. He spent weeks examining coins, and then he found 2 1987 Doubled Die Obverse pennies, both in brilliant uncirculated condition. Those coins graded MS64 and MS65, and they sold at auction for a combined total of $31 million. funding a retirement beyond anything he'd imagined possible. The 1987 penny also teaches us about timing in the coin market. The collector who bought the first discovered example in 1995 for $2.8 million made an incredible investment, because 27 years later that coin was worth $36 million. That's a return of over 1,200%, or about 10% annually compounded, beating most traditional investments over that same time period. Rare coins have proven to be excellent stores of value and wealth preservation vehicles, especially trophy coins like MILLIONAIRE varieties that appeal to wealthy collectors. Here's something crucial about authentication that I need to emphasize. There are fake 1987 doubled dies out there, and scrupulous sellers will take common 1987 pennies and artificially create doubling through mechanical means or by striking the coin multiple times. And to an untrained eye these fakes can look convincing, but professional graders know the difference. Genuine hub doubling has specific characteristics. It's unique. Next, the 1972 Lincoln penny. And folks, buckle up, because this coin has a story so legendary that it's become folklore among serious collectors. We're talking about a penny that has reached verified auction prices of $135 million. And the circumstances surrounding its creation are so bizarre, so unexpected, that even mint officials couldn't believe it when they discovered what had happened. The 1972 penny we're examining today features what's known as a doubled die obverse error, but this isn't just any doubled die. This is considered by professional numismatists to be one of the most dramatic and obvious doubled dies ever produced by the United States Mint. And here's why it's so spectacular. When you look at this coin, even without magnification, you can see the doubling. The word liberty is doubled so severely that it looks almost three-dimensional. The letters appear to jump off the coin's surface. "In God We Trust" shows massive separation between the doubled impressions and Lincoln's eye, cheekbone, and the entire date. 1972 displays such prominent doubling that there's absolutely no mistaking this for anything other than a major mint error. Now let me take you back to 1972, a fascinating year in American history. Richard Nixon was president, the Vietnam War was still raging, the Watergate scandal was just beginning to unfold, and the Philadelphia Mint was operating under intense pressure to produce billions of coins to feed America's growing economy. And in this high-pressure environment, mistakes happened. Specifically, during the die production process, a working hub was impressed into a die at one angle, then the die shifted slightly before the second impression, creating the dramatic doubling we see on these coins. And somehow, this badly flawed die was put into production and used to strike thousands of pennies before anyone at the Mint realized what was happening. Here's where the story gets absolutely insane. When Mint officials finally discovered the error die in operation, they immediately pulled it from production and destroyed it. They also attempted to recall and destroy all the coins that had been struck from that die. But here's the problem. Some of those coins had already been wrapped into rolls, shipped to banks, and distributed to the public. And once coins enter circulation, there's no way to get them all back. So while the Mint succeeded in destroying most of the 1972 doubled die pennies, a small number escaped, and those survivors have become some of the most valuable and sought-after coins in American numismatic history. The first confirmed discovery of a 1972 doubled die penny happened in 1973, just 1 year after production, when a teenager in Pennsylvania was sorting through pocket change and noticed something strange about one of his pennies. The letters looked blurry and doubled. He showed it to his father, who was a casual coin collector, and his father immediately knew they had something special. They took the coin to a local dealer who offered them $500 on the spot, which seemed like a fortune in 1973. But that dealer knew the coin was worth much more. He sent it to the American Numismatic Association for authentication, and when word got out that a major 1972 error had been discovered, the numismatic community went crazy. suddenly everyone was checking their 1972 pennies hoping to find another example. That original Discovery coin, which was graded MS-64 by PCGS years later, sold at auction in 2002 for $18 million, and then when it came up for auction again in 2019, after decades of appreciation and increased demand from wealthy collectors, it hammered for an absolutely mind-blowing $135 million, making it one of the most expensive pennies ever sold and proof that even relatively modern coins can achieve astronomical values when they're rare enough and dramatic enough. But here's what you need to understand about the 1972 Doubled Die penny. Not all examples are worth $135 million. Value depends on grade. A well-circulated example in good for condition might be worth $100,000 to $500,000. Still incredible money, but nowhere near the record price. A coin in extremely fine condition could fetch $5 million to $20 million. And those pristine mint state examples graded MS-65 or higher are the ones that reach 8- and 9-figure prices. So condition is everything in coin collecting, which is why you should never clean coins and always handle them carefully by the edges. Let me explain exactly what to look for when examining your 1972 pennies, because there are several varieties, and you need to know which one is the big money maker. First, check that there's no mint mark below the date. The valuable doubled die was produced only in Philadelphia. If your coin has a D or S mint mark, it's not the variety we're discussing. Then examine the word Liberty very closely. On a genuine 1972 doubled die, you'll see clear separation between the doubled letters, especially on the letters LIBE. This isn't slight doubling that requires magnification. This is bold, obvious doubling that's visible to the naked eye. Next, check In God We Trust, particularly the words In God, which shows strong doubling. Then look at Lincoln's eye. There should be a clear doubled outline making it appear like he has two eyes overlapping. And finally, examine the date, 1972, where all 4 digits show prominent doubling. There's another incredible discovery story that proves these coins are still being found. In 2015, a construction worker in Ohio was renovating an old house built in 1974, and he found a coffee can hidden in the wall containing several rolls of pennies that had apparently been stashed there by the previous owner. Among those rolls were 3 1972 doubled die pennies in mint state condition. The construction worker had no idea what he had. He almost spent them on lunch, but his coworker happened to be a coin collector and recognized the dramatic doubling. Those 3 coins were authenticated and graded MS-65, MS-66, and MS-67, and they sold at auction for a combined total of $287 million, instantly transforming the construction worker's life from paycheck to paycheck to generational wealth. The 1972 doubled die penny is special for another reason beyond just its value. It represents a moment in time when the U.S. Mint's quality control failed spectacularly, and that failure created something beautiful and valuable for collectors. It's a reminder that even massive government institutions make mistakes, and those mistakes can become treasures. The coin is also historically significant because 1972 was the last year before major changes in penny composition, and these coins represent the final era of high copper content pennies, before the mint began experimenting with different alloys to save money. Now I want to talk about authentication because this is critical. There are many altered coins and counterfeits in the marketplace claiming to be 1972 doubled dies, and scrupulous sellers will take common 1972 pennies and artificially create doubling through mechanical damage, acid etching, or by striking the coin multiple times in a press, and to an untrained eye these fakes can look convincing. But professional graders at PCGS and NGC have seen thousands of coins, and they know exactly what to look for. Genuine hub doubling has very specific characteristics. The doubling is uniform across the entire design. It shows the same direction and degree of separation everywhere. and it has a distinctive shelf-like appearance where the two images overlap. Mechanical damage or strike doubling looks different. It's flatter, more chaotic, and doesn't have that clean separation between impressions. Here's something fascinating about the market for 1972 double die pennies. There's a hierarchy among collectors. Everyone wants the highest grade examples. But there's also strong demand for circulated coins because they're more affordable and still incredibly rare. A 1972 double die in good condition might sell for $300,000 to $700,000, which is still life-changing money for most people. And there are probably hundreds of these circulated examples still out there in old collections, estate boxes, and maybe even still circulating in pocket change, though that's extremely unlikely at this point. 1972 double die only increases. So if you're lucky enough to find one, you're not just finding today's value, you're finding something that will continue appreciating for decades. Let me share one more story that'll give you chills. In 2020, during the pandemic when everyone was stuck at home, a retired teacher in Michigan decided to finally sort through her late husband's belongings. He'd been a penny hoarder and had saved every penny he got for 50 years. She had dozens of jars filled with tens of thousands of pennies, and during quarantine, she decided to look through them. It took her 2 months of examining coins every evening, and then she found it, a 1972 penny, with the most obvious doubling she'd ever seen. Even though she wasn't a coin expert, she knew this was something special. She posted photos in an online coin forum, and within hours experts were telling her she'd found a genuine 1972 double die. That coin graded MS63 and sold for $42 million, allowing her to move out of her small apartment into a beautiful home and secure her financial future. The 1972 Lincoln double die penny is proof that attention pays. If that teacher had just taken those pennies to Coinstar or spent them without looking, she'd have turned millions into a few $100s. But because she took the time to examine each coin, she changed her life. And that's the message I want you to take away from this. Every penny deserves a second look. Every coin could be the coin. And the few seconds it takes to check could be the most profitable seconds of your entire life. Now we still have more incredible coins to discuss, including a 1995 D penny that has a value that'll shock you, a 1987 penny with a jaw-dropping story, and a 1979 penny that ties everything together. And I promise you the surprises just keep getting better. So stay with me because the Coins Explorer is taking you on a journey through the most valuable pennies in existence. And you do not want to miss what's coming next.